Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. Love Against the Throne. Episode 21. Chapter 101. Gemma's POV. I sat in Luna class, doing my best not to fall asleep. We had been discussing ways to mediate with pack members over various issues. My head nodded, and I would shake myself awake. At one point, my eyes closed, and I jumped with a yelp when Tiffany poked me with a pencil. I glared at her. She just smiled and turned her attention back to the instructor. It's not that the class was boring. It was just that I was tired. My legs and ankles started to hurt from sitting so long, so I stood up. Sarah, the instructor, looked at me with her hands on her hips. I'm sorry, Sarah. I can't sit down. It hurts too much, so I am just going to go stand in the back. She nodded to me and went back to her instruction. I went to the back of the room and paced while she spoke. 10 minutes later, she finally dismissed the class for the day. Sighing, I walked over to Esther and Tiffany. I looked towards Sarah. I'm sorry again, Sarah. She shook her head. It's all right, Queen Gemma. I understand. She smirked. I looked at Esther and Tiffany. I think I am going to go up to my room and take a nap, so I'll be energized for dinner tonight. Esther placed her hand on my arm. Don't push yourself, Gemma. No, it's all right. I planned a nice dinner for us, and I want to be there. We walked out of the classroom, and I saw my twin leaning against a pillar in the hall. He was dressed in a pair of jeans and a black button-up shirt. He walked over to us, but his eyes were completely on Esther. I looked at Tiffany and smiled while Ian swept Esther into his arms and kissed her. Her arms wrapped around his neck as their kiss deepened. Tiffany and I giggled. My brother pulled back from Esther and glared at us. Do you two mind? I shook my head. No, of course not. He rolled his eyes and went back to kissing Esther. Tiffany and I walked a few feet from the lovebirds. We noticed Delilah had exited the classroom and ran into the arms of the male we saw her with earlier. I glanced back at Ian, and he was glaring towards Delilah. Esther had a hold of his hand, but his gaze was fixed on Delilah. It wasn't longing. It was rage. Ian, I held up my hands, trying to calm him down. What is she doing here? He hissed. I exchanged a look with Esther and Tiffany. She is here for Luna class. His hand balled into a fist, and he started walking towards Delilah and her male companion. I followed after him with Esther and Tiffany close behind me. Ian. I called to him, but he ignored me. He stopped right in front of Delilah. She looked up at him and smiled. Hi Ian, how are you doing? She said in the fakest sweet voice. So, you are here for Luna classes? Don't have to be a future Luna. She shrugged and wrapped her arm around her male companion. I am the future Luna of Fire Moon Pack, and Dylan here will be the Alpha. I looked at the male beside Delilah. I did not sense an alpha aura coming from him. Something like a strong warrior. He was well-muscled and appeared strong. But a non-alpha blood trying to do an alpha's job rarely ever worked out for a pack. They were easy to challenge and beat. That guy will be an alpha, Ian scoffed. Let me get this straight, you didn't want to be my Luna because you couldn't produce pups, but now you are going to be Luna of your pack. She looked at the ground. The truth is that I can have pups. The miscarriage just happened, so I used it as an excuse to reject you. I had meant to do that for a long time. Ian growled. Why were you trying to reject me? She shrugged nonchalantly. I didn't like your pack. Your parents are so uptight about money and wouldn't listen to any of my ideas on how to upgrade the pack house. I didn't like her insulting my parents. Tiffany growled behind me. My parents are not uptight. They just can't justify spending lots of money on a pack house that doesn't need remodeling, Tiffany explained to her. You want silk and marble everywhere. What's wrong with not wanting to live in a hovel? There is nothing wrong with the pack house, Delilah. You just want things on a grand scale. I told her. She scoffed. Seriously, you live in a palace. Yeah, and I have no desire to squander the kingdom's money on renovations it doesn't need. Ian sighed and pinched the bridge of his nose. So, you rejected me because my parents are uptight with money. Oh, there were other things. Delilah looked at her nails. Now, Daddy will let me do what I want to the pack house and buy what I want. He likes making me happy. Ian shook his head. Well, good luck. Fire Moon will probably be bankrupted in a year if that after you become Luna. I dodged a major bullet. I could still sense my brother's anger through his voice. I know he had accepted Delilah's rejection, and the mate bond was severed, but I had heard the ex-mates still felt twinges of feeling between them. I couldn't imagine what my brother was going through, but his eyes changing colors told me that Leopold was fighting for control. Esther lightly stroked his back with one hand while holding his hand with the other. He looked at her and smiled softly. I can't believe you replaced me with her, though. Delilah snorted. Little pushover meek Esther. She will suck at being Luna. Ian took a step towards Delilah. She will be 10 times the Luna you can ever hope to be, Delilah, he growled out and then turned to look at us. I need to go for a run. He then dashed down the hall. Should I go after him? Esther asked me with concern. Give him a few minutes, Esther, I told her. So, Esther. Does Ian have to rape you like Jeremy used to? Delilah asked with a sinister smile. Esther growled viciously, and then I watched as she punched Delilah so hard the other she-wolf flew backward and hit a wall. Tiffany and I stared at Esther with wide-eyed dropped jaw shock. Yes. Tiffany finally spoke out. Sorry, that was years of pent-up rage, Esther replied. I have wanted to do that for a long time. We heard a weak growl and looked over at Delilah as Dylan helped her to her feet. She lunged towards Esther. Esther easily sidestepped Delilah and grabbed her arm, and flipped her onto her back. She placed her foot on Delilah's chest. I am not the meek little pushover you all thought I was. I am the daughter of a beta. My father and brother taught me well. Esther moved her foot off of Delilah's chest. Delilah struggled to get up again and looked at Esther with rage. Delilah tried to lunge towards Esther but stumbled forward. Her male companion caught her. We aren't done here. I stepped towards her. Yes, you are. Are you going to do anything about her attacking me, Gemma? Delilah pleaded with me. I thought we were sisters. We are not sisters, Delilah. Not since you broke my brother's heart. And no, I will not do anything to Esther. She was justified. I turned and started to walk away. Gemma. Delilah called out to me again. I turned back to my brother's ex-mate. By the way, Delilah, that's Queen Gemma to you, I smirked and walked away with Esther and Tiffany on my sides. I put my arm around Esther's shoulder. I so want to spar with you one of these days. She laughed. I would like that, Gemma. Wait, am I allowed to call you Gemma? Of course. You are my sister, after all. Oh, and by the way, you are going to be an excellent Luna. Everything that Zephyr Moon needs. Thank you, Gemma. We walked through the halls until we reached the elevator. So, I'll see you two in the small dining room around 5. I ordered the chef to make us some Italian food. Some lasagna and fettuccine alfredo and a few other things. Tiffany's face lit up. Oh, I cannot wait for lasagna. Me too, Esther squealed. I patted my belly as I was kicked by one twin and then the other. You guys can hang in the game room or the theater if you want, I said as the elevator door opened up. Have a good nap, Gem. Tiffany waved as the doors closed. I sighed and leaned against the wall of the elevator. When the door opened, I started towards my room, excited for my nap. As I neared my room, I heard Nicky crying and screaming from his room. Scared that he was having one of his episodes, I rushed to the door and walked in. He was face down on the floor bawling. She looked at me with an annoyed look on her face. What's going on? Is he having one of his episodes? She snorted. No, he is throwing a fit because I told him it was nap time, and I turned off his cartoon. I looked at my son, and he started kicking the ground. Nicky, I called to him. He stopped kicking his feet and looked at me. Why are you throwing a fit? He rolled over onto his back and glared at Liz. Nana is mean to me. She won't let me watch my cartoons. He sobbed. But it's nap time, Nicky, I explained to him. You need to listen to Nana. She is in charge of you when Daddy and I are working. He sat up and folded his little arms, and glared at me. I want to watch my cartoons. He sobbed. It sounds like you need a nap. He growled lowly at me and sprang to his feet, and ran towards the television. No nap! He shouted. I heard Leonora growling in my head. I know she was growling at Nicky's wolf lasher. I sensed his wolf submitting to his mother wolf's growl. Nicky was trying to turn the TV back on. Nicholas Philip Warner. Put that remote down. It is time for your nap. I rushed over to him. He looked at me and with a sour face. I don't want a nap. He mumbled. Well, you are coming with me. We will take a nap together. He tried to fold his arms as I grabbed his little hand. I started walking while he resisted. Nicholas! I said to him sharply, and he started walking with me. I stopped beside Liz, who was sitting on a chair. Apologize to Nana. He looked at the ground as I let his hand go. He shuffled towards his grandmother. I'm sorry, Nana. He said quietly. It's all right, Noodle. She leaned down to hug him. I'll make him the rest of the day, Liz, I said to her. I then grabbed Nicky's hand, and he walked with me to my room. I set him on the bed and took off his shoes. Then I took off my shoes and lay on the bed. Nicky laid down beside me with his head on my pillow. His little eyes drooped as I reached over and stroked his cheek. See, you are sleepy. No, I'm not. He mumbled quietly. I laughed and then started to sing Baby Mine to him. In no time, he was sound asleep snuggled against my chest. It didn't take long for me to fall asleep also. I don't know how long I was asleep, but I woke up suddenly upon hearing giggling coming from somewhere in my room. I was alarmed when I didn't see Nicky in the bed. Nicky! I sat up and found the source of the giggling. Nicky was sitting on Cassius's lap watching cartoons. Cassius turned to me with a smile. Hello, love. Did you have a good nap? I looked at the clock beside the bed. It was 4:30. I slept for a long time. He laughed. You were snoring up a storm when I came in. But Nicky was awake, so we have been watching cartoons for a few hours. He set Nicky down on the couch beside him and stood up. He walked over to the bed and sat beside me. He placed his hand on my belly. How do you feel? Better. I need to get ready for dinner, I said as my stomach growled. He laughed. My queen is hungry, isn't she? I am. I ordered Italian food to be served tonight, and I invited a few more friends to join us. That sounds like a party, love. I shrugged. Sorry. No, it's all right. We need a night to chill and eat lasagna. He kissed my lips softly while stroking my belly. The twins began to kick, and I winced as it made my skin burn. Sighing, he stopped. Sorry, he mumbled. He stood up from the bed and walked towards the couch. Cassius, I called to him, and he turned to me. I love you, I said sweetly to him that made him smile broadly. I love you too, he said and then sat on the couch beside Nicky. I got up from the bed and walked into the bathroom. I took a short shower and then dressed in a different dress for the night. It was my lavender summer dress with flowers. I pulled my blonde hair into a ponytail and put on some sandals. I walked into the room. Are you guys ready? Cassius scooped up Nicky. Are you hungry, Nick? We are having sketty tonight, I told him. His face brightened up. Yummy. With bread. Of course, I replied as I reached him and Cassius. I tickled my son's tummy. My stomach grumbled again as I was kicked. Well, the twins are hungry too. So let's go before they break out. Cassius chuckled and grabbed my hand with his free one as we walked out of the room. It took a while to get downstairs to the small dining room. I couldn't walk as fast I used to as my feet hurt, and the twins were lying low on my pelvis. I can carry you, he offered. No, I grumbled. He shrugged and set Nicky down as we neared the dining room. My siblings were all gathered outside the dining room. Nicky ran straight for his uncle, and my brother picked him up and flipped him onto his shoulder. My son giggled wildly as my brother held him upside down. How is my favorite nephew? Ian said to Nicky as he put Nicky back onto the ground. do that again, Uncle Ian," Nikki jumped up and down. Ian picked him up and flipped him over his shoulder. My son giggled and kicked his feet out. Then he set my pup down again. I greeted Esther and Tiffany. I didn't see Avery and Jude. Where are Avery and Jude? They had to rush back to their pack, Ian explained. Is everything all right? He shrugged. Jude just said it was an emergency. I sighed. I was a bit worried about my friends. I hoped it was nothing major. Well, let's get dinner started, I said and opened the doors of the dining room. My mouth watered as I smelled the food that the Omegas were putting out in buffet trays. I told them to serve it buffet style. The food smells amazing, guys, I said to them. They all bowed to us before scrambling out of the room again. The chef walked in. Everything is prepared to your specifications, Your Majesty, he said while bowing. Thank you, chef. Like I told the Omegas, it smells amazing. He lifted a few of the lids. Enjoy your dinner, he responded before leaving the room. I looked at my siblings. Feel free to dig in, guys. They all smiled and began to fill up their plates. I fixed a plate with spaghetti and bread for Nicky. He eagerly dug in when I set it in front of him. I then made myself a plate with both lasagna and fettuccine alfredo with chicken. I am so going to regret this later, I said as I sat down beside my sister. Why? Heartburn City and Tums only do so much, I said as I took a bite of the delectable lasagna. This is the best lasagna I have ever had, Ian exclaimed. Cassius chuckled as he sat down on my other side. Yeah, my chef is quite the master at everything. He had his plate full of spaghetti and lasagna. So, Esther, I heard you punched Delilah today after Luna class. Esther's eyes widened as she looked at my mate. I didn't think you knew about that. Unless Gemma said something. I shook my head. I didn't say anything. I have eyes all over this kingdom, and they tell me everything, Cassius explained. Esther shuddered as Ian grabbed her hand. Am I in trouble? No, from what I heard, Delilah deserved it. I didn't think you had it in you. Esther pursed her lips and looked down at her plate. I know, everyone thinks I am this quiet mousy type. A nerd that doesn't stand up for herself. But Jeremy took a lot from me. Cassius growled when she said that name. I glared at him. Cassius, seriously. It's still a reflex, love. I rolled my eyes and turned my attention back to Esther. She had tears in her eyes. You don't have to talk about this now, Esther, I said to her. No, I want to get it out. She said to me while taking a sip of wine. Jeremy forced his mark on me. Even though I told him I wanted to be with him, she said to me. He took my virginity forcibly and it sort of broke something inside of me. My wolf Renata was heartbroken that her mate's human betrayed me like that. Rex was a good mate, but Jeremy was always abusive. I made it seem I didn't want to be touched to keep Jeremy off Mr. It worked for a while, then he started forcing me again. My heart broke for Esther. I did not know the extent of what she had gone through with Jeremy. He had only told me she never wanted X. I didn't think he was abusing her. Your friendship helped me get through it, Gemma. When Rosalind and other pack members bullied me, you stood up for me. I felt tears well up in my eyes. She sniffled. And I genuinely care for Nikki. I know you do, I said to her. Ian grabbed her hand and kissed it. I'm sorry I didn't know it was that bad, Esther. He looked into her brown eyes. If I had known, I would have ripped Jeremy to shreds for abusing such a beautiful flower. She smiled sweetly at my brother. I'm glad the goddess blessed me with you. Even if we aren't second chance mates, I feel we belong together. Tears streamed down my face as I watched them. Cassius reached over and wiped the tears from my cheeks. Esther, in my opinion, you are a very strong female to have survived that and come out of it as you have. She can fight too, I said to Cassius. She blushed and leaned into Ian. I'm not at your level, Gemma. I just know a few things. And I have been out of practice the last 2 years because Jeremy wouldn't let me train. Well, when we get back home, you can train all you want, Ian declared. She smiled at him. Thank you. And when I eject these two, I would like to train with you when I can. Gemma, you can't beat up my mate, Ian said to me. I stuck my tongue out at my brother. No, brother, I only beat you up. I want to train with Esther. He rolled his eyes. Hey, tomorrow we have Luna fight training, Tiffany chimed in. Oh, are you guys going? Esther and Tiffany both nodded. I looked at Cassius. Can I go watch them train tomorrow? He lifted an eyebrow at me. He had spaghetti sauce on his cheek. I picked up a napkin and wiped it off as he contemplated. You know you can train right now. I'm not asking to train. I just want to watch. He shrugged. Fine. You can watch. He mumbled to me. It's at 10 am tomorrow. Tiffany chimed in. Oh, I said. I didn't have an official schedule of the Luna classes. I need to work in the office tomorrow. Cassius squeezed my hand. Go watch your sisters, love. I can handle it on my own. I smiled at him. Are you sure? Yes. Thank you. He leaned over to me and kissed my cheek. I heard Tiffany giggle beside me. You two are so cute, she then looked down at her plate. I hope I find a mate as handsome and good as Cassius. Cassius straightened up. Well, there aren't any other males that measure up to my level. I smacked his chest, and he chuckled while I unrolled his eyes. Speaking of mates, Tiffany looked at Cassius. Where are your sister and her vampire? I was hoping to meet him. Titus took Ainsley on a trip to Disneyland, Cassius replied with a snicker. A vampire and a werewolf lost in Disneyland, Ian laughed. Wait, so how does he not die being out in the daytime? Tiffany asked with concern. He uses some charm he bought from a witch, I told her. And he doesn't sparkle. Cassius and I laughed. No, he does not sparkle, Cassius said in a serious tone. And he gets irate when people ask. Tiffany paled as her eyes widened. She looked afraid now. I smacked my mate's arm. You. He just started laughing. Tiff, don't listen to my mate. Titus won't get mad at you for asking if he sparkles. He is quite chill. He would probably just laugh like he did when Nikki asked him. She laughed. Of course Nikki asked him that. Maybe because his aunt forced him to watch the Twilight movies. Gemma. I did not force my nephew to watch those movies. He liked them. I laughed. Really? Yet, he seemed to like the vampires more than the wolves, though. I looked over at my son, who was now covered in spaghetti sauce. Nicholas Philip Warner. He looked up at me and grinned. Good sketty, Mommy. We all laughed. That is going to take forever to clean off. The rest of the family dinner was filled with laughs and stories. It felt good to have a nice night with my mate, siblings, and son. Then after dinner and dessert, we parted. My siblings headed to the dorms while I carried my now sleepy and sauce-covered pup to the elevators. I yawned as we stood in front of the elevators. Love, I'll take care of Nick. You look and sound tired, Cassius said beside me. I'm fine, Cass, I said to him as I yawned again. I took a nap earlier, remember? Yes, but you sound exhausted. Now let me take care of my son and you rest and take care of those two. He pointed at my belly. I sighed. Fine. I conceded as we walked into the elevator. After we reached the door to our room, I handed Nikki over to Cassius. I kissed my pup on the cheek. Daddy is going to get you ready for bed. Okay? Be a good pup. Okay, Mommy. He said quietly. Cassius leaned down and kissed my cheek. Rest well, my queen. He smiled and then walked towards Nikki's room. Sighing, I went into our room and stripped out of my clothes. I opted to wear only underwear tonight. I then lay in my bed with my phone. I started watching ASMR videos, and in no time, I fell asleep. Some time later, I felt the bed dip, and then Cassius pulled me into his arms. His hot breath against the back of my neck. Before long, he was snoring softly, and I was able to fall back into darkness. Gemma's POV: a new day dawned, and I was fast asleep in the arms of the man I loved most in the world. His scent washed over me like a blanket as my back was flush against his chest. His face was buried in my neck, and his hot breath soothed me. I wanted to lay here forever, but then my bladder made its presence known. I groaned and wiggled my way out of Cassius's arms. He made a noise and then rolled over while I struggled to get off the bed. Finally, off the bed, I practically ran to the bathroom. I made it just on time and made my relief known rather loudly. When I was down, I turned on the shower and hopped in. I let the warm water run down my body, relieving the aches in my muscles. I felt pain in my muscles and legs nearly constantly, especially if I sat too long. The massage setting on the shower maid alleviated that pain. I had my eyes closed, but I sensed him joining me in the shower. I moaned when I felt his strong hands on my shoulder, and he began to massage. Then he planted a soft kiss on my neck. Good morning, my queen, he rumbled out in my ear, sending shivers through my body. He worked his magic with his hands and kneaded my shoulders and neck. Oh Cassius, that feels so good, I whispered out. I can tell, he chuckled and began to kiss my neck, and his hands worked their way. I looked up at him, and we kissed softly at first, and then it heated up. I turned around and wrapped my arms around his neck, and he pushed me against the wall and deepened the kiss. Our tongues battled for dominance as I became more aroused. I wanted him in me. He wrapped his arms around me. At least I can help you get off still, I said with a little more bitterness than I meant. He frowned. Gemma, we will figure this out. Like we figure everything else out. He pulled away from me, and I proceeded to help him wash. After our shower, we dried off and went into the closet. I thought about putting on some workout clothes since I would be watching training, but none of my workout clothes felt comfortable. So once again, I wore my lavender sundress. Cassius put on a pair of black slacks and a light blue button-up shirt. I watched as he slicked his brown hair back. Then he turned to me and smirked. Always watching me, he chuckled. You are welcome to feel me anytime, love. He turned around and wrapped his arms around me again. Our lips met, and we engaged in a hot and heavy kiss before parting reluctantly. We have to get going. I know, I sighed. I'll go get Nikki up and ready, I told him. I waddled out of the room and into Nikki's room. My son was sitting on his bed playing with his stuffed animals. Good morning, sunshine. He looked up at me. Hi, Mommy. He set his toys aside and slid off the bed. Let's get you dressed. I walked over to his dresser and rummaged through, picking out his favorite tiger shirt and a pair of khaki shorts. He was getting better at dressing himself, so I just stood there watching. When he was down, I grabbed his hand and led him out of the room. Cassius was waiting for us at the elevators. Terry and Izzy joined us a moment later. Morning, Izzy, Terry. I greeted my in-laws. Morning, dear. How are you this morning? She asked me. I shrugged. As good as I can be. It won't be much longer now before those pups are here. I hope so. I am so over this pregnancy, I told her and glanced at Cassius as he frowned. Sorry, Cass. I don't mean it like that. I am just done being in pain all of the time. And not being able to do hardly anything without needing a nap. I am tired of that. He sighed and placed his hand on my arm. I wish I could take some of your pain. I smiled at him. I wish that too. We walked into the elevator and rode down in silence. Then once the door opened, Nikki giggled and ran out in front of us. We reached the dining room, and I saw that Nikki was sitting in the same chair as his best friend, Nico. The two pups were giggling as everyone else stood up. Good morning, everyone, Cassius greeted the room. Let's all have a glorious day and a glorious breakfast. He smiled and sat down. I watched Nikki with his friend as the Omegas brought out breakfast. It was a heart scramble with bacon, cheese, and veggies mixed with eggs. I dug in right away as the twins started kicking. Patience, pups, I said while patting my belly. So, what are you going to do while waiting for training to start? Cassius asked me. Training? You are letting her go to training, Terry piped in with alarm in his voice. I'm just going to watch, Terry. I won't be participating. I want to watch Esther and Tiffany train. He took a deep breath. Had me a little concerned there. I don't want anything to happen to my grandpups. I just shook my head and looked at Cassius. I'll just help you in the office for a little bit if that is all right. He snorted. Nat, that is totally not all right having my maid help me. He winked at me as my eyes rolled. I looked down at Nikki with Nico. I think I'll let Nikki go to pup care today and give Liz a break. After breakfast, I took Nikki to pup care. Barb and the other caretakers seemed excited to have Nikki there. We missed him. He has been doing well with the meds and therapy. So I thought I'd let him come today. I watched my son happily playing with his friends. We'll call immediately if anything comes up, Barb told me. Thank you, Barb. I smiled at her. About 10 minutes later, I walked into the office, and Cassius was talking to Deke. Morning, Deke. How is it going? He took a deep breath. I am on edge. Audrey is due tomorrow. I sat at my desk. Well, I pray to the moon goddess that everything will go smoothly for her and that your daughter comes out healthy. Thank you, Gemma. That means a lot. Deke breathed out. I turned on my computer while Deke and Cassius chatted some more. I started answering emails and looking through new treaties and negotiations. Everything was up to par as we began our video calls. Some of the alphas still had a hard time accepting my authority as queen. That only made Cassius angry. Queen Gemma's word is as good as mine, Alpha. He growled to one of the older alphas. The alpha had called over a dispute with another alpha that was trying to encroach on his territory. But it was an agreed-upon condition from a decades-old treaty set by their fathers. Finally, the alpha agreed on mediation with the other alpha. I sighed heavily as Cassius closed the call window. He patted my hand. I'm sorry some of these don't take you seriously. It took them time to get used to me and my coronation. I shrugged. It doesn't bother me. I looked at the clock. It was nearly 10. It's almost time for training anyways, so I'll start my slow waddle towards the training grounds. He laughed and placed his hand on my belly. He leaned down and kissed my bump. One of the twins kicked. You be good pups, for your mama. He smiled and kissed my belly again. He then kissed my lips. Be safe out there, love. I laughed. I am just going out there to watch. I know. Just indulge me. Please. I grabbed both sides of his face and peered into his deep blue eyes. I will be safe, my king. I promise you from the bottom of my heart. He smiled as I leaned in to kiss him. Thank you, he whispered against my lips. Reluctantly I broke the kiss and stood up. After training, I think I want to hang out with my siblings in the game room. That sounds like a plan, but don't overexert yourself. If you need to rest, then rest. I may pop in later if I can. I have meant to beat your brother at pool. I laughed. Good luck with that. It took me nearly 15 minutes to waddle my way out to the training grounds. I found where the Lunas were training. Their trainer is a female named Stephanie, who I hadn't met. But from what Maria told me, she is a fierce fighter. I walked up and saw a very tall, very muscular female standing on the sidelines as the future Lunas filed onto the field. She had very red hair, and when she turned to me, the greenest eyes I had ever seen. She looked me up and down with a scowl. You aren't training in that condition, Your Majesty. Her voice was cold, and it reminded me of Maria. I'm not here to train. I am here to watch, I told her. She scoffed. I don't need you to watch. I know what I am doing. I wasn't asking. I promise I won't get in your way. Her eyes rolled, and she walked a few feet away. You better not get in my way. Her tone was threatening. I ignored it and walked over to my sister and Esther. They were chit-chatting. They were both dressed for training. Did the instructor just threaten you? Tiffany asked while glaring at her. Don't worry about it, Tiff. Just focus on training. I told my sister. She sighed. She shouldn't threaten you. Tiff, I said don't worry about it. All right. All right, ladies. Stephanie bellowed. On the field now. Let's get started. Good luck, I said to Tiffany and Esther. I walked past Stephanie and sat on the bleachers. Stephanie barked her commands at the future Lunas. She guided them through warm-ups. After warm-ups, I saw Delilah try sneaking onto the field. Stephanie growled towards her. Why are you late? She yelled towards Delilah. Delilah shrugged nonchalantly. What does it matter? Stephanie stalked towards Delilah. If you are committed to taking this class, then you need to be on time or don't bother showing up at all. Delilah rolled her hip. You have no authority over me. I am a Luna, and what are you? When you are in my training class, I have full authority granted to me by the king. 50 laps around the field now. Delilah rolled her eyes. No. I don't do laps. Either run the laps, or you will leave, and you won't be allowed to come back, Stephanie ordered. I got up from the bleachers and stepped towards them. Delilah looked at me, and Stephanie turned her eyes to me. Help me out, Gemma, Delilah pleaded with me. What did I say yesterday about that? I am Queen Gemma to you. And you need to do as Stephanie here says or leave. And when I say leave, I mean leave the palace grounds altogether. Delilah opened her mouth, wanting to say something. I need these classes. Daddy won't step down until he is satisfied with my performance. Then I suggest you get running, I smirked at her. Delilah growled and then took off running. You are a stupid. Just for that, make it 100 laps, I shouted at her. Stephanie looked at me with a slight smirk. Thank you. Then she walked away and ordered the other she-wolves to pair off to spar. Stephanie stayed on the sidelines at first, watching the sparring. I stood a few feet away from her watching Esther. She was fighting another she-wolf I didn't know the name of. I was impressed by my brother's mate. She held her own against the female she was fighting. I looked over at my sister, and she was having trouble beating the one she was sparring. Tiffany grunted as she was flipped onto her back. Don't give up, Tiff, I shouted to my little sister. Stephanie gave me a sideways glance. So, you are just here to watch your sister? Yes and no. I wanted to watch my brother's mate also, I pointed at Esther. I didn't know she could fight, and I was curious to see her techniques. But I also miss out of training. I can't physically train right now, so I will settle for watching. Stephanie nodded her head. I seriously thought you were here to keep an eye on me. Nah, you are doing just fine, and from what Maria has told me, you are a fierce warrior. Stephanie actually smiled at me. Really? Delta Maria said that about me? I didn't think she noticed me. Really? Head Warrior Ward is the one that I report to, not Delta Maria. He is the one that assigned me this task. Maria isn't involved in training the warriors. She just focuses on the guards. I tried out for the Royal Guard and was narrowly beaten for the privilege. Well, keep at it. Keep training, and someday you will make it. I told her. She smirked. I hope someday I can spar with you. I have heard you can put up a good fight. A friend of mine saw you rip apart rogues. I shrugged. I have been ripping apart rogues for years. I started training at 10. My father is one of the alphas that allows females to train, and me being a white wolf, there was no way he was keeping me from training. Right, you are Victoria Mackenzie's granddaughter. Stephanie was warming up to me. Her tone of voice was less cold. Well, I promise you, after these two are out of me, we will spar together. Stephanie turned her attention back to the Lunas and started walking around, giving out pointers. I focused my attention back on Esther. She flipped the female she was sparring with relatively easy. I walked towards them and stood about 20 feet away. Esther looked up at me. So, how am I doing? She asked. I would say you are doing awesome. I was going to give you pointers, but you don't need them, Esther. She nodded and was ready to continue fighting the other female. Okay, ladies, let's take a 10-minute break, Stephanie ordered. Esther patted her sparring partner on the shoulder and then walked towards me. We walked over to the bleachers, and Esther picked up a water bottle and drank. Tiffany sat beside me a moment later, covered in bruises. My poor Tiffy. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I'm just not the fighter you are, Gem. Well, as long as you can master the basics, Tiff. You will be just fine. I turned my attention to Esther. If you could fight that well, then how did you let Jeremy do what he did to you that last 2 years? She sat on my other side. Fear is a great motivator, Gemma. He used my fear against me. The moment he forced his mark on me, it broke something in me. My fight left me. Every time he forced himself on me, it got worse. I shut down. I wanted to fight. My wolf wanted to fight, but she was heartbroken by Jeremy's abuse, so I didn't have her strength to help me. I sighed and grabbed her hand but felt her stiffen. I pulled my hand away. Sorry, I forgot you don't like people to touch you. I can stand people I trust touching me. But only for a moment. Like I don't mind when you pat my arm or wrap your arm around my shoulder. But try not to do it too much. Well, Esther, feel free to tell me when you have had your limit, and I will respect it. Me too, yes. Tell me if I get too touchy-feely, Tiffany interjected. You two are too good to me, Esther said softly. You are our brother's mate, so that makes you family, and we will treat you as such, Tiffany explained, and I smiled at my sister. Impressed she was so mature about it. Okay, ladies, let's get back to work, Stephanie ordered. Esther and Tiffany stood up. Hey, after training and lunch, why don't you guys come to hang with me in the game room? I invited them. It's a date, Esther smiled and then ran back out onto the field. Yep, I agree. Tiffany then followed Esther out onto the field. I watched for another half hour before I started to feel hungry and tired. It wasn't quite lunch yet, but I was starving and needed to rest. I stood up from the bleachers. I looked towards my sister. Tiff, I am starved and sleepy, so I am going to lunch early. Meet me in the game room later. K. I mind-linked her. Okay, Gem. She replied, keeping her attention on the female sparring with her. I then waddled my way out off the training field and towards the palace. Cass, are you still in the office? I linked my mate. Yes. I am coming back. I am starving and sleepy. I swear I heard him chuckle. I'll have lunch waiting for you, love. 15 minutes later, I finally made it to the office. I was winded and panting as I opened the door. I had to lean against the wall to catch my breath. Within a second, Cassius was in front of me. Are you all right, love? Just a little winded. I breathed out. He scooped me up into his arms bridal style. Cassius, I can still walk. He ignored my protest and then set me down on the couch. There was a tray with a giant sandwich setting on it. After he set me down, he fussed with the food and put the tray in front of me. He poured me a glass of Sprite and smiled as I started eating the sandwich like some voracious animal. Cassius sat beside me with a tuna sandwich. How was training? Good. It went well. I was really impressed by Esther. My pack will be in good hands with her as their next Luna. He nodded. And the trainer? What did you think of her? She's good. At first, she was a little annoyed by my presence, but then she warmed up to me. We ate the rest of our food in silence. I leaned back on the couch and felt sleepy. Cassius gathered our dirty dishes and pushed the cart and trays over to the door. I stretched out on the couch and lay my head on one of the pillows. Cassius knelt beside me and stroked my cheek. He kissed me lightly. You rest now, my beautiful queen. He kissed my belly and stood up. It didn't take me long to fall asleep on the couch. I don't know how long I was asleep before my snoring awoke me. I heard Cassius snickering from his desk as I sat up. How long was I out? 2 hours. Why are you snickering? He shrugged. Your little snores were adorable. I rolled my eyes. You are such a dork. I'm your dork. I stood up from the couch and felt a little more energized. I walked over to the desk and sat on Cassius's lap. I kissed him as his arm wrapped around me. I am going to meet Esther and Tiffany in the game room. We are just going to let loose and had fun. Good. I hope you have fun. I will be along in about an hour or so. I just have a few things to finish up. He explained. I gave him one more long passionate kiss before sliding off his lap and walked out of the office. I felt less winded as I made my way to the game room. I nodded and smiled at the Omegas and guards. Esther and Tiffany were already in the game room when I arrived. Hey, girls. Hey, Gemma. You look refreshed, Tiffany told me. Thanks. So what do you two want to do first? I asked as Ian walked up behind me. He poked my back, making me yelp. I punched his arm. Hey, brother. He kissed Esther and smirked at me. Is there any particular reason why that creepy dude, Ward, went extra hard on me today? I shrugged. I haven't a clue. He rolled his eyes. I am a bit sore. Good, I smirked. I want to play pool, Tiffany joined in. I can do that, sort of, I said to her. It was a little tricky with my big belly to play pool. We walked over to one of the tables and paired off. Of course, Esther and Ian teamed up while I was with Tiffany. The game started, and we spent most of the time laughing and playing around. I kept moving the pool balls whenever Ian tried shooting. He would growl, and us girls would laugh. On our third game, we were laughing and joking around more than playing. Tiffany grabbed the cue ball right when Ian was trying to shoot. Tiff put the ball back. She held it up. Come and get it. She giggled and trotted away from him. Ian shook his head and then lunged at our sister. He grabbed her from behind, and they both laughed as he was wrestling with her trying to get the cue ball back. Then there was a loud, vicious growl that echoed through the room. 1 second, Ian was tickling Tiffany while she laughed, and then the next, I watched as a large male pulled my brother off of Tiffany and tossed him a few feet away. He then looked at my sister, who was frozen in fear, looking up at him. He grabbed her in his arms and growled at my brother, who was on his feet, ready to protect Tiffany. Mine. Gemma's POV mine. The large male shouted as he held my sister tight. Tiffany looked at me with terror in her eyes. It seemed her mate had appeared, and right now, she was not excited. She was terrified. Ian was on his feet and growling at the male. What, Garrett? You were touching what is mine, Garrett growled. She is my sister, Tiffany was trying to get out of Garrett's hold. That only made him hold her tighter. Tiffany whimpered. I wanted to tear this apart for terrifying my sister. Kick him in the balls, Tiff. I mind-linked her. She nodded and squirmed in his hold. I don't care if she is your sister. She is mine. He shouted. Let me go, Tiffany demanded. I am not yours. He turned to look at her with black eyes. I am taking you with me this instant. Tiffany narrowed her eyes at him. No. She yelled and kneed him hard in the balls. He released her, and she ran over to me, and I wrapped my arms around her while Ian stood in front of us. Garrett roared with anger and charged Ian. I backed away with Tiffany in my arms while Garrett and Ian squared off. My twin managed to punch Garrett a few times. Just let me have my mate, Mackenzie, and I'll back off. He yelled at my brother. I stepped towards him. Tiffany clung to my back. You will not touch my sister until you calm down, I yelled at him. He turned his gaze on me. He was taller and bulkier than Ian. He had short reddish-brown hair and reddish-brown eyes that kept flickering between brown and black. I demand you give me my mate. I raised an eyebrow. You do know who I am, don't you? I don't talk. Well, until you figure it out and calm down, you will not get near my sister. I stood my ground with Ian beside me. Gemma, I got this. My twin said quietly to me. Garrett growled loudly and lunged towards us. Ian managed to knock him backward, but that just enraged him more. Get him, Ian. You will pay for this, he growled at me and charged towards me as Tiffany trembled behind me. Then a loud growl shook the room, and everyone but me fell to their knees. I stayed in front of my sister as Cassius entered the room striding towards Garrett. He glared at the other male. You may all rise, he ordered in his tone. Tiffany went back to clinging behind me. Garrett took a step back as Cassius stood just in front of me with Ian next to him. Did I hear you just threaten my mate and your queen? The man lowered his head slightly. He won't let me take me, mate. In a flash, Garrett was thrown across the room. He hit a wall so hard it cracked. Cassius picked him off the ground and held him by his throat. Do you care to repeat that? Garrett trembled. It was nice to see him humbled finally. I looked at Ian. Who is he? Garrett Peterson, future alpha of Fire Mountain Pack, my brother replied. Your Majesty, I just want my mate. Garrett pleaded with Cassius. I stepped towards them. And I told you to calm down before I'd let you near my sister. Cassius released Garrett, and he slumped to the ground. My mate looked at me. Tell me what happened, Gemma. Ian was beside me while Tiffany was on the other side of the room with Esther. Garrett was trying to look at her. I looked at Cassius. Well, we were just playing pool. Tiffany grabbed the cue ball while Ian was shooting, and they were playing around while Ian tried getting the ball back, and then next thing I know, my brother is being pulled off Tiffany and flung aside. Then he grabbed Tiffany as I got to my feet, Ian interjected. You were touching my mate, Garrett growled as he stood up. Ian snorted. She is my sister, you. Garrett snarled and lunged for Ian, only to be stopped by Cassius. Enough. Garrett froze. Cassius looked back at Tiffany. Is this male your mate? Tiffany nodded slowly. My wolf confirmed it. See, she needs to come with me now. Tiffany shook her head. I am not going anywhere with you. If you calm down, maybe she will be willing to talk to you, I told him. I don't need to talk. He looked at Cassius. I demand you tell your queen, he said queen with disgust. That I am taking my mate with me whether she likes it or not. She is mine. Cassius growled loudly at the insolent young alpha. First, if you wish to keep your head on your shoulders, I suggest you don't make demands of me. Second, the queen is my equal. Her word is as good as mine. Third, it appears that Tiffany does not want to go with you. And if she doesn't want to go with you, then I will not make her. If you wish to speak to my sister, then, you will go back to the dorm and calm down. Then tomorrow, you can try talking to her again. Garrett's hand balled into a fist. This is nonsense. Your queen has spoken, Cassius looked at the male. I will have you escorted back to the dorm and watched until you can come back and talk like a civilized male. Do you understand? He begrudgingly nodded. Yes, Your Majesty. He scowled at me. 4 royal guards stepped into the game room and towards us. Escort Mr. Peterson back to the dorms and keep an eye on him, Cassius ordered them. Yes, Your Majesty, one of the guards replied while trying to grab Garrett's arm. Garrett growled and pulled it away from the guard but allowed them to escort him out of the room. Tiffany ran over to me and sobbed into my chest. Please don't make me go with him. He scares me. Why is he my mate? I just wanted a nice friendly mate. I rubbed her back. No one will make you go with anyone you don't want to go with, I told my sister. We'll go call Dad. I'm sure Phil will be here in no time to protect his youngest daughter, Cassius said beside me. Tiffany sniffled and looked at my mate. You won't make me go with him. Cassius wiped tears from her cheeks. No. I respect the mate bond, but I also respect individual choices. If you do not wish to go with him, we will not force you. Tiffany shuddered. Ian and Esther walked over to us. We are going back to the dorms. I will help the guards keep an eye on that bastard. Ian told us. Okay, Ian. I looked at Tiffany. You can stay in my room if you don't want to go back to the dorms. She nodded frantically and looked at Cassius. Will that be okay? I don't want to intrude. Cassius smiled softly at her. You are more than welcome to stay with us tonight. We'll order in dinner and watch movies. Okay. Tiffany nodded and sniffled. Thank you, Gemma. Do you want me to bring you some of your things for the night? Esther asked her. Sure, yes. My room is 616. Tiffany said and pulled a key from her back pocket. It's sort of messy. I laughed. Some things never change. Esther took the key from Tiffany. I'll go with Ian and then bring you your things. You can hang with us too for a bit if you want, Esther. Sure, we'll make a date of it. Esther looked at Cassius. I feel like we are invading your space. Cassius shrugged. It doesn't bother me. Esther laughed as Ian linked arms with her, and they walked out of the room. Come on, Tiff, I said to my sister. I'll go get Nick from Pup Care, Cassius said to me. Oh, my little Nicky, Tiffany squealed. He always knows how to cheer me up. He loves his Auntie Tiffy. I smiled at her. Let's go call our parents and let them know. Cassius walked beside us towards the elevators. Then he stiffened. He cursed. What's wrong? I asked him. Alpha Peterson ran off from the guards. I am going to go assist them in finding him to make sure he doesn't hurt anyone or himself. Cassius explained to me. You two go on up. What about Nikki? I just mind-linked Angela. She'll bring him up to our room. He said before walking away from us. The elevator door opened, and we stepped on. Tiffany kept sniffling and wiping her nose. I kept my arm around her shoulder. It will be all right, Tiff. We reached my room, and she sat on the couch while I grabbed my phone off the nightstand. I immediately dialed my father's number. It rang a couple of times before my father answered it. Hey Gemma, he sounded cheerful as he answered it. Hey, Dad, I replied to him. What's up? He asked. I sat on the couch beside Tiffany. Well, Tiffany found her mate. There was a pause for a moment, and then I heard the phone shuffling. Tiffany found her mate. It was our mother's voice. Yeah, Mom. She found her mate. You don't sound so excited, my mom said to me. Who is he? How is Tiffany? Where is Tiffany? I looked at my sister. Do you want to tell our mom what happened? If Tiffany right there? Mom asked. I handed the phone to Tiffany. Hi, Mom. She said and then put the phone on speaker. You are on speaker now. Same on this side, Mom responded. Tell us about your mate. Tiffany took a deep breath. I heard my father snort. Really? He is Garrett Peterson, future alpha of Fire Mountain Pack, I said into the phone. My father growled. Oh, of course, it had to be those hotheads, he snarled. Fire Mountain is a new pack. Well, new in that they have only been around for 20 years. Garrett's father, Michael, is a tough alpha but, as I said, a hothead. Fire Mountain is a small but tough pack. They are very military-like. And I am afraid they are traditionalists when it comes to females. He explained. Tiffany shook her head. Don't tell me. They think she-wolves should be seen and not heard. I'm afraid so, Tiffany, our father replied. They don't allow females to train or do hardly anything other than produce pups. They aren't abusive about it, though. I am rejecting him, Tiffany announced. I am not living like that. Our father sighed. What happened with Garrett? Well, we were playing around in the game room. Ian was trying to get a cue ball from Tiffany, and then Garrett attacked Ian and then would let go of Tiffany, I told my father. I was so scared, Daddy. Rosalie was happy to find our mate at first, and then she was just as scared as me when he wouldn't let go. He kept attacking Ian, and then I told him to calm down, and he then tried attacking me. But luckily, Cassius stepped in before I got hurt. I heard our parents breathe sighs of relief. Thank the goddess for Cassius, our mother spoke out. Anyways, Garrett was escorted out of the game room and to the dorms and now has a guard detail on him. Tiffany is staying with me in mine and Cass's room tonight. Good. Your mother and I will be there in the morning so we can sort this. My father told us. Daddy, I am not going with him. Tiffany, darling. Your father and I will not make you go with anyone you don't want to go with, our mother chimed in. I snorted. You forced me to go with Cassius. That was different, Gemma. My mother said to me. Anyways, you girls stay safe, and as I said, we will sort this out tomorrow. Our father said. Good night, girls. I love my girls. We love you too, Mom and Dad, I told her before hanging up the phone. There was a knock on the door. I opened it to Angela and my son and her son. Mommy! Nicky exclaimed as he ran into my arms. I leaned down to hug him. Hi, baby, I said to him. Thank you, Angela. Anytime. Cass said that your sister found her mate, you can say that again, Tiffany said from the couch as Nicky ran over to her. Auntie Tiffy. Nicky hopped onto the couch beside her. She pulled him onto her lap and ruffled his hair. Well, good luck with all of that, Angela said to my sister. I have to take Nico home. So, I'll see you later. Bye, Angela. I closed the door as she walked away. I sat on the couch. So, what should we order for dinner? Pizza! Nikki exclaimed. That sort of sounds good, Tiffany responded. Can we get pizza? The kitchen makes pizza. What topping would you like? Candy, Nikki suggested. Tiffany and I laughed at that. I ruffled my son's hair. No, we can't have candy on pizza, my silly son. How about bacon and pepperoni and maybe some sausage? Tiffany suggested. That sounds good to me. I dialed the kitchen and put in our order for 3 large meat pizzas since Esther and possibly Ian would be joining us. After finishing the order, I settled on the couch beside Tiffany and Nikki, and we watched TV for a bit. There was a knock on the door, and I waddled over to answer it. Esther was there with a bag of Tiffany's things. Sorry, it took so long. The guards have the dorm on lockdown while they are looking for Garrett. They still haven't found him. No, Esther said as I let her into the room. I had to be escorted over here. Ian is helping Cassius with the search. I shuddered. It reminded me of the night Jeremy disappeared. It also reminded me of the situation with Ainsley's mate. Why did my sisters have to end up with such mates? Tiffany was so excited about finding her mate, and now it had turned into another nightmare. Well, we ordered pizza and chicken wings for dinner. That sounds awesome, Esther looked around my room. I thought your parents' room was posh, but this she trailed off. It's almost like it's fit for royalty, I winked at her, and she laughed. I won't lie and say I am not just a tad jealous. She laughed as we sat on the couch. It's all right, yes. Oh man, this couch is like sitting on a cloud. What is the bed like? Esther's curiosity amused me. Try it out, I suggested. She giggled. Oh, come on, you aren't serious. I am. Go flop on it. It's like a cloud. She stood up and ran over, and flopped onto the bed. You weren't lying. I am so going to tell Ian we need a bed like this. She sat up. Does that make me sound like Delilah? Tiffany and I laughed. Not really. A good bed is a sound investment. The Alpha and Luna of a pack as strong as Zephyr Moon need good sleep. Esther walked back to the couch and sat down. You are so right, Gemma. We turned our attention to the TV again. Tiffany had put it on the Food Network, and we were watching Cutthroat Kitchen. Oh, Cassius loves this show. They giggled at that. I looked at the clock, thinking our pizza should have arrived by now. Then there was a knock on the door. It's about time, I mumbled as the twins kicked while my stomach rumbled. I put my hand on the handle and was opening it. Gemma, wait! Tiffany shouted. I opened the door and was met with an angry Alpha and not Omegas delivering our food. Garrett's eyes were solid black. Where is my mate? He hissed. I tried slamming the door in his face, but he shoved it back and stepped into the room. Get out! I screamed at him. He slapped me so hard it caused me to stumble backward. He stalked towards Tiffany. Cassius, Garrett is in our room, and he hit me. I mind-linked my mate. I heard him growl through the link. I put myself between Garrett and my sister, who was cowering on the couch with Esther and Nikki. Get out of my room, now! He growled at me and went to slap me again. I felt Leonora surge forward. On your knees! She shouted using the queen tone. Garrett fell to his knees. Do not move, I said with my voice but still using the tone. Garrett lowered his head but still growled. I noticed his eyes had turned back to their normal reddish-brown color. Seconds later, Cassius burst into our room with Ian and a bunch of guards. He looked at me and stroked my bruised cheek. Are you all right? I nodded. Yeah. Cassius reached down and picked Garrett off the ground and pushed him towards the guards. I should have you executed for striking the queen. He bellowed. Do you have anything to say for yourself? I just want my mate. He said quietly. Cassius stepped towards him. Lock him up in the dungeon. No food. Only water. He ordered the guards. As for you, he looked at Garrett. Because my queen is not seriously hurt, I am feeling slightly merciful. You will be locked up in the dungeon to cool off. And tomorrow, if I feel you can have an adult discussion, then we will let you out, and we will discuss your situation with the queen's sister. Garrett scowled at Cassius. Whatever you say, King Cassius. He replied in a mocking tone. Take him away. She is my mate. I just want my mate. Garrett struggled with the guards. My father will hear of this. Cassius snorted. Well, I will call him anyways. He looked at me. I'll be right back, love. I am going to help the guards drag him to the dungeon, then go call Alpha Peterson. My parents are going to be here in the morning. He nodded and then followed the guards out of the room. I noticed a pair of Omegas standing just outside the room with a food cart. Is that pizza? Cassius asked. Yep. We'll save you a slice. I smirked at him as the Omegas pushed the cart in. You better, love. Cassius shot me a smile before jogging after the guards. I sighed and ran my hand through my hair. I thanked the Omegas and shut the door. I sat on the couch with a sigh. You guys go ahead and dig in. Can I have some too? Ian asked. Of course you can, Esther told him. Aren't you going to eat, Gemma? Yeah. I just need to catch my breath. My heart was still pounding in my chest, and I felt winded. My siblings grabbed some pizza. Esther set a small slice on the coffee table for Nicky. I hope you don't mind that I made him a plate. Old habits. It's all right, Esther, I told her and slowly got to my feet. I grabbed a couple of slices and sat on the couch with my family. We ate pizza and watched some Adam Sandler movies. I found myself a sobbing mess while watching 50 First Dates. Ian and Esther left after a few hours. We had consumed most of the pizza. I had tucked Nicky into bed. Tiffany and I were now about to watch another movie when Cassius finally walked into the room. He sat on the couch in a huff. Sorry, it took so long, love. Alpha Peterson was quite angry when I told him everything that happened. The conversation got quite heated. He is even threatening war against the kingdom, he chuckled dryly. But he will be here tomorrow as well. So be prepared for that. Tiffany grabbed my arm. I don't want people to get hurt because of me. Don't worry. We have it under control, Tiffany," Cassius said to her. "Fire Mountain is a strong pack but not strong enough to take on the royal warriors." He ran his hand through his hair. "Are you hungry, Cass? We did manage to save you some pizza." He nodded, and I stood up and walked over to the cart and put some pizza on a plate, then popped it into the microwave. I then set it on the table in front of Cassius with a bottle of beer beside it. I yawned loudly as I felt the fatigue from the day wearing me down. "I think I am going to go to sleep." "I'm sleepy too," Tiffany said. "You can sleep in the bed with your sister," Cassius told her. "I'll take the couch." "Wait, are you sure?" "I don't want to deprive you of the bed," Tiffany sounded concerned. "Don't worry about it. But what if you guys want to? Well, you know." I couldn't help but laugh. "We wouldn't have X with you in the room, Tiff." "Oh." Tiffany got up from the bed. "Can I take a shower?" She picked up the bag Esther had brought for her. "Yeah." She ran into the bathroom, and I heard her gasp out. "This bathroom is huge." I laughed. After we all got our showers and changed into night clothes, Tiffany and I settled on the bed. Cassius made up the couch. Despite his size, the couch still looked comfortable for him. It didn't take long for me to fall asleep despite being worried about what tomorrow would bring. Cassius's POV, the couch wasn't the most comfortable place to sleep. Being a large male, I spent most of the night sliding off of it. I should have just had Tiffany sleep on it. She was small enough. I had just managed to find a comfortable sleeping position when there was a loud, frantic knock on the door. It was still dark outside, so I was instantly annoyed. I got up with a growl and opened the door to one of my guards. He bowed to me. "I am sorry for the early intrusion, Your Majesty. But an Alpha Michael Peterson is requesting your presence." "Now?" I snarled out, causing the guard to tremble. "Why yes," the guard replied. I wiped my hand down my face. "Tell him that my office hours are 9 to 5 unless it is an emergency." "Tell him to come back then," I told the guard. He bowed. "Yes, Your Majesty." I closed the door and strolled towards the bathroom. I noticed Tiffany sitting up on the bed. "Is everything okay?" she asked me. "Fine as it will ever be," I mumbled. "Oh." I went into the bathroom to relieve myself. As I was washing my hands, Gemma waddled in. She looked tired and in a little bit of pain. "Are you all right, love?" "Define all right," she mumbled while relieving herself. I liked we had reached the point in our relationship where we could use the bathroom in front of the other. I walked out of the bathroom and sat on the couch. There was no hope I was going back to sleep now. It was barely 6 am. Gemma walked out a moment later and sat on the couch beside me. I heard the guard. Obviously, Alpha Peterson wants to get to the bottom of what happened with his son. They are a serious and strong pack. My dad said they are very military-like and traditionalist when it comes to females. They don't allow females to train or anything like that, she said, and I was surprised. That last part is not true. I am surprised Philip would repeat gossip like that. They have a lot of female warriors. Quite strong and fierce too, I might add. Gemma turned to me as Tiffany sat on the chair across from the couch. Why would our dad lie? I shrugged. I have no idea, Gemma. Even alphas are prone to believe rumors. So, I might be wrong about Garrett. Tiffany spoke out. You should get all of the facts from Garrett and his father before you make a decision that can affect your whole life, Tiffany, I told her. Can I turn on the TV since it seems none of us are going back to sleep? I stood up. Sure, why not? We aren't watching The Bachelor again, Gemma responded. But Gemma, we didn't finish the last episode, Tiffany countered. Gemma scoffed and rolled her eyes. Ugh, whatever, Tiff. I laughed as my mate argued with her sister. Well, I am going to go take a shower, ladies. Try not to spill any blood. I kissed the top of Gemma's head and then headed into the bathroom. A few minutes into my shower, Gemma joined me. I couldn't stand watching a minute more of The Bachelor. She mumbled. I laughed as I smoothed my hands down her bare body. It's all right, love. You do not ever need an excuse to join me in the shower. I kissed her neck. We stood under the water in each other's arms. I massaged her shoulders and neck while she moaned. I then washed her hair and body. We tried going further, but it still hurt her. She started crying. I feel so useless, she sobbed as I held her under the flowing water. Love, it's just X. We don't have to do it if you aren't comfortable. Okay. I ran my finger under her chin and looked into her eyes. Please stop crying. She sniffled. I'm sorry. Small things make me cry. I wrapped my arms around her wet body. My beautiful Gemma. Don't be sorry for your emotions. I understand you don't have control over most of them. I am here for you no matter what. Why are you so wonderful? I smiled down at her and kissed her. We deepened the kiss and stayed in the shower a little longer before finally getting out. We dried off and wrapped towels around our bodies. We trotted quickly into our closet. Luckily Tiffany was preoccupied with the TV. I dressed in one of my suits. I needed to look the part of king today. Gemma put on a blue dress that hugged her body like a dream. She then put her long blonde hair into a bun, and she looked every bit the queen she is. We walked out of the closet, and Tiffany looked at us. Don't you two look spiffy? She smirked at her sister. Is it all right if I take a shower and get dressed? Of course, Tiff, Gemma replied. I am going to go get Nikki up and ready. She walked out of the room, and I sat on the couch. I absent-mindedly watched the TV when there was a knock on the door. I opened it, and my father walked right in, pushing past me. Good morning, Dad. Come right in. He turned and looked at me. What is going on with Alpha Peterson? He has been blowing up my phone all morning. He arrived early to talk to me. I told him to wait till later. My father snarled and ran his hand through his hair. Why is he so angry? He didn't tell you. I countered. No, my father was angry with me. The bathroom door opened, and Tiffany walked out. My father looked at her and then at me. That is not your mate. Yes. Don't you remember Gemma's sister Tiffany? She slept in here last night. Does Gemma know? He looked at me with concern as Tiffany crept over to the couch. Yes. Gemma was here too. He threw up his hands. Whatever. I didn't come here for that. Tell me why Alpha Peterson is so angry. His son is Tiffany's mate. He got violent with Gemma and her brother. Tiffany was quite scared of him. I had him locked up. My father took a long deep breath. He was violent with Gemma. He hit her hard, Tiffany interjected. My father turned his attention to her. He isn't as scary as he seems. Hitting my pregnant sister is pretty scary, Uncle Terry, Tiffany explained to him. I am going to reject him. I don't need a mate like that. I don't want to wind up like Ainsley. My father growled lowly. You really should hear all of the facts before you make a rash decision. My dad told me they don't like women in their pack. I don't want to be just a broodmare to them. Phil said that. My father asked with confusion. I told her I was surprised that Phil would repeat a rumor like that, I said to my dad. Gemma walked into the room with Nick on her hip. She smiled slightly at my dad. Good morning, Terry. He just nodded. I told Michael you would meet him directly after breakfast to get this resolved. Dad? You can't just make appointments for me. I am the king now. Yes, you are, but it seems you are still ignorant about some things. Release Michael's son too. There are things you need to know about that pack, but it's their place to tell you. Can we wait till my parents get here? Tiffany pleaded with him. Sure, my father said with frustration. I would like to throttle Philip for being stupid. He snarled and then walked out of the room. I sighed. Let's go get breakfast quick and then resolve this. We all walked towards the elevators. My parents were already waiting for us. My father still looked angry. Maria, I mind-linked my Delta. Release Garrett Peterson and take him to his father, please. Okay, Cass. She replied. We got to the dining room, and everyone stood up. Let's just eat, I said to them and sat down. We mostly ate in silence. Gemma had Liz take Nick for the day while we all made our way to my office. My parents just arrived, Gemma told me. Well, have them come here to the office. I sat behind the desk. My father sat in one of the chairs in front of the desk. My mother had gone to do other things as she didn't feel we needed her. Tiffany sat on one of the couches. Within a minute or so, Phil and Melinda arrived. My father glared at Phil. A guard walked in. Your Majesty, the Petersons are waiting in the conference room. Thank you, I stood up. Well, let's go get this over with, I announced without even addressing my in-laws. Everyone followed me to the conference room. We walked in, and Alpha Peterson was with his son Garrett and two other males I assumed to be his Beta and Delta. We all took our seats. I watched Garrett look longingly at Tiffany. Let's get started. There is nothing to start, Cassius, Tiffany stood up. Last night, I discovered that Brute is my mate, Garrett growled lowly at her. And I don't want him. Garrett's shoulders fell. He looked at his father, who stood up. You don't want him? You don't even know him, young lady. My son is a strong and fearless warrior. He is also kind and generous and well loved by our pack. Phil stood up with a scoff. Kind? He attacked all 3 of my children. He struck my very pregnant elder daughter. He is lucky that Cassius didn't kill him. Alpha Peterson growled at Philip as his son stood up. Cortez was angry that his long-awaited mate was being kept from him, and he lost control, Garrett explained. We know all about your pack, Phil countered. How you treat women and don't even allow them to have opinions or anything like that. My daughter does not want to live like that. Alpha Peterson shook his head. Alpha Mackenzie, I understand you to be an alpha of great integrity and strength. Your standing in the kingdom is well known because of your close friendship with King Terence. So it surprises me that an alpha as respected as you would believe such rumors about my pack. Females in my pack have the same rights as males. We have many female warriors, several of whom have served with the Royal Guard. Phil looked at my father, who nodded with the other alpha's word. You knew, Terry? Yes, I did. I am just as surprised as Michael that you would believe rumors rather than facts. Phil sat down. Well, it's not like there is much known about Fire Mountain. There are good reasons for that, philosophy. My father said to him. He looked at Alpha Peterson. Should I tell him, or should you? Go ahead, Terry. Alpha Peterson and his son sat down. My father took a deep breath. In the beginning of my reign before Cassius was born, Michael's father Lawrence came to me seeking refuge in the kingdom for his pack. I know everyone thinks they are a new pack, but in fact, they aren't. They have been around for many years. They just weren't allied with the kingdom and lived outside of our rule, my father explained. Anyways, many years ago, they were attacked by a mixture of vampires and wolf hybrids, and their pack was almost entirely decimated. Lawrence came to me seeking refuge in the kingdom. So I yielded them land and money to rebuild their pack. But Lawrence asked that I allowed them to remain secretive as they aren't typical wolves. My father looked at Michael. I believe you should tell them that part. Michael nodded at my father. Thank you, Terry. As he said, we aren't typical wolves. White wolves aren't the only special ones. There are others that the goddess has granted special abilities to. We are the last of the red wolves. I listened as everyone gasped. We thought your kind was extinct, Gemma told him. The same could be said about white wolves, Your Majesty. And of course, like yourselves, special lines of wolves are highly coveted by vamps and witches as our blood can be used in powerful rituals and potions. Michael continued to explain. So, we have been hunted to near extinction. That is why not much is known about us. Terence has done a good job of keeping our secret. Which is perhaps why rumors persist. Phil sighed. I apologize for what I said, Alpha Peterson. But that still doesn't excuse your son striking Gemma, attacking my son, and scaring out of Tiffany. Garrett cleared his throat. I want to apologize for that. Like I said, my wolf was in control. He was angry. He didn't care who he had to plow through to get to his mate. He has a vicious temper. Look, Tiffany, I am so sorry you were terrified of me. That is the last thing I ever wanted upon meeting my mate. White wolves are direct descendants of the moon goddess, Selene herself. We are descendants of Selene, but we are also descended from the god of war Ares. We were designed to be warriors much like white wolves, but we also have hotter tempers, Alpha Michael added. I scoffed. I can't imagine wolves with hotter tempers than white wolves. Our wolves are borderline feral. They are much harder to control than other wolves. They take over easily. That is useful in combat but not so useful when dealing with social issues. Michael explained. So will you please give me a chance, Tiffany? Please. Garrett pleaded with her. Tiffany looked at her parents, and I watched their eyes glaze. I knew they were mind-linking. She then looked at Garrett. I will give you a chance. But first, you must apologize to my brother. I will do that. So, this has been an enlightening morning. Are we done here? Everyone nodded their heads. Garrett stood up and looked at Gemma. Queen Gemma, I apologize for my wolf striking you. He was blinded by rage. I know that's not an excuse. But I hope you forgive me. Gemma smiled at him. Apology accepted. Just don't do it again, she said to him. Everyone stood up. Well, then if we are done here, the Queen and I will take our leave now. We have other matters to attend to. You are all welcome to stay in here to talk. I clasped Gemma's hand. I watched Phil walk over to Michael and Garrett and shake their hands. Tiffany stood in front of Garrett and smiled at him. Gemma leaned towards me. I hope he treats her well. I have a feeling he will. Do you want to go with me or stay here with your family? I'll join up with them later towards lunch. In the meantime, the king and queen have kingdom matters to attend to. I smiled down at her and kissed her softly before leading her out of the conference room. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.